It was cold, and the wind blew strong. The ashes of volcanic islands swept across. 3 figures in black robes sheltered in place, awaiting a signal of some kind, a signal that came from the sky above. A black cloud formed in the shape of a skull and moved in a choreographed motion. It put its right hand left and its left hand right. The 3 figures stood above the river, and it led to a black monolithic-like structure. They moved their left hands right and their right hands left in an anti-clockwise motion, and a being of great magic rose from the lava. A giant, made of lava and volcanic rock. It towered above the structure. The figure pushed forward with its hand, and the giant smashed into the structure with a sweeping strike that broke through the materials of the structure to reveal a small 5x4 room with a being sitting there, meditating. The giant holds their palm out. The being rises and walks to the top. Guards rush to the cell to open it, but by the time they reach it, he is gone. The lava giant crumbled before their eyes, and the figures that stood on the hill vanished into thin air. "This is a recording," a voice rang out. "The hallowed place is breached." An officer of the Society of Street Wizards security branch listened to this recording with a frightened expression resting on their face. The officer got up and went over to a button. This button, a maroon reddish one, had no label, but it sent a ping to all personnel in the citadel of the SSW. They pressed it, and the ping screamed out across all corners of the citadel. 6 council members of the SSW walked in column formation down a hallway as they moved into their discussion chambers. As soon as they got seated, one of them spoke up. "How can we even trust this?" Another female wizard replied, "Morgana predicted this long ago, before his tragic death. We should have moved him." Morgana was a paranoid old wizard. Maybe so, but he commanded the council to act, and now we have a crisis. "Crisis?" the male voice scoffed. "This is a rumor only, and I shall go back to my business." Beez informs me that Rage Wizard and Wraith Wizard have left to meet him, and I must meet my new underling. The man gets up and storms out of the meeting, leaving the 5 other council members. An older female wizard that looked radiant for about 7,000 years old sighs. "Well, if he's not worried, I am not either. You have to understand that Dark Wizard has always broken out, but we always capture him. I think this meeting is over." The other council members, but the first female voice, follows the older female wizard out in the hallways. The first female wizard thinks for a moment and remembers that there is always another option, though she hasn't used this option in a very long time. Street Wizard meditated in his usual spot, a park that many years ago he sat in and saw a peculiar sitting of what he presumed was his imagination. A wizard duel. He saw a being, an older man wearing the exact wizard cloak he wore now, fighting 3 other wizards wearing black robes with red trimming on the side. They fought on the hillside during the school event, but he was the only one who noticed it. All the other children focused on their dodgeball and tug-of-war, but Street Wizard saw a fight that would change his life once it was over. As the last of the bad wizards struck the older male wizard down, the robes floated away with the wind. Street Wizard watched them land on a tree behind him. His group was still doing their tasks, and he wasn't into them at all. He grabbed the wizard robe, and it fitted him perfectly, and then he saw the history of the older male wizard flash before his eyes with a simple gesture underlined in it: the snap of fingers. Street Wizard had snapped his fingers and disappeared. He had teleported into the citadel and started his life as a wizard. He had formed a group that may now hunt Street Wizard. Street Wizard remembered his first interactions with Dark Wizard, who was not at the status he was now. He wasn't found by his cult yet, which made him a reasonable being. He had been friends with him once, before he had to imprison him for crimes that he would rather not remember. Around Street Wizard's meditation spot, a blurry aura appeared. Street Wizard broke from his train of thoughts to see a young female wizard standing over him. He recognized her from his schooling days. "Jay?" "Hey Street Wizard, long time no see. Look, I've already answered letting out the creature at the manor." Jay rolls her eyes and opens a portal. "I need your help. Are you with me on this one?" "I'd have to clear my schedule, But before Street Wizard could even finish his words, Jay pushed him through the portal. Dark Wizard had visited Magetropolis many times, but this experience with the city today was rather appealing. His disciples had burnt down a local's house and kidnapped many people in his name. He would be proud, but he learned the locals had a group go down into the sewer system. The Laughing Man, a very defined jawline with a menacing smile that'd make anyone uncomfortable, sat across in a limousine. Dark Wizard wasn't disappointed by the lack of results by the Laughing Man, but he knew that his henchmen needed to step up. The limousine stopped out of Magetropolis PD. The Laughing Man got out, and Dark Wizard received a ping that the rest of his cultists were ready for him. He thinks for a moment. A creeping smile goes across his face when he tells the driver, "Head to one of the port gates. My friends can handle this situation." The limo driver nods and heads onto the main road. The Laughing Man, just about to enter the limo, sees this, knowing he still had business with these adventurers. The limo pulls up to a stone brick building, built tall, as if a grand train station. Clocks were everywhere, as were the Magetropolis PD, and the city was in a bad place these days. The SSW were being driven out by police due to their suspected role in the assassination of a council member. Dark Wizard got out of the limo, which promptly turned around and headed back the way it came. Dark Wizard entered the building, which was filled with commuters rushing about their day. Police eyed everybody off, but paid no attention to Dark Wizard. A lady in a suit, followed by a few dozen other individuals, walked up to Dark Wizard. They all did a slight bow, before the lady in the suit said, "Our port side is closed off, sir." "Margaret, darling, you are a godsend. Today is a glorious day." "Thank you. I shall show you the way." They all followed Margaret through the port station. People filled into little booths that looked like changing rooms to the untrained magical individual. However, buttons were magically encoded inside the booth that teleport around the world to different magical cultures. They arrived at the port side. They filed in one at a time, selecting a different destination to ultimately head to their final one, the mountain that led to the universe, the one that was guarded by the Unibearer and a fort of SSW wizards. As Margaret had her turn to use the port side, Dark Wizard placed his hands on her shoulder and whispered, "We did it. The Meist gate is ours." She steps forward and ports away. Dark Wizard follows immediately afterwards, pressing the button to head to a magical destination in Japan. He is gone from Magetropolis. Street Wizard steps out of the portal and into a nice office room. Outside, green grassland is lined with a stone pathway. Jay stands behind her desk and sits down. Street Wizard, looking around the bland office, notices a small picture on the wall. The picture is of a group of children, and on the left-hand side at the button is a very small Street Wizard and Jay looking at the camera, and a not-so-evil Dark Wizard standing in the middle. He was taken back to a time where evil was only in the ones who believed Dark Wizard existed. He was distracted and didn't hear the question that Jay asked. "Street Wizard," she prompted him as he jumped. "Do you know anything?" "Know anything? Well, Jaymes was meant to bring balance. Obviously, you were distracted. My bad." She rolls her eyes. Street Wizard chooses the nearest seat and sits down in front of Jay. "What's up?" "Dark Wizard has escaped." "Oh, that's big." "Yeah, I need your help, Street Wizard. Do you have any clues on where he'd be going?" "Yes." He pauses for a moment, remembering back to earlier this year when he met with Dark Wizard in an alleyway. He's off to get the Unibearer and control the Meist gate. "I figured that out," Jay mutters to herself. "Anything else?" she asks. Street Wizard looks at her and decides to twirl his fingers a bit to cast detected thoughts on Jay. Her surface thought outlined that she believes that there's no danger to the Unibearer. Why did she even bother with Street Wizard? He eases out of the spell and asks her. "All I know is he was trying to get the Meist gate. It has been a goal to reset the universe in his favor. He wouldn't dare. If he tried, he'd have to have a massive army, breach the fort, scale the mountain, beat the Unibearer, and the Unibearer would be stupid enough to hand it over to him." She spits out and stands up. "This was a horrible idea. I should have never believed you could have helped." Street Wizard stands up and tries to click his fingers to teleport out. It fails. He turns to Jay and asks, "Where are we?" the fort of the Unibearer. Predictable as always, Street Wizard says under his breath, which is quickly cut off by the explosion rocking the building. Jaymes had been sent to the fort of the Unibearer by the male council member. He only knew the man by Archmage H. He told Jaymes the basics. He taught him how to be a wizard, using a wand, harnessing magic, until it was worth trying to do spells without one. Jaymes was now one of the many students here at the fort. He had to train before being sent to other fronts and way stations to enforce magical law. He hadn't thought about Street Wizard in a while. It was a good thing. He had made new friends and started to show real promise. However, he didn't feel the explosion that rocked the classroom he was in. Many went flying into the wall and the door. He only saw glimpses of the aftermath. The minions of Dark Wizard rolling into the classroom and heading out into the door and out into the fort. Dark Wizard leaning over him and chuckling for a moment before saying, "Pathetic chosen one bullshit always." Dark Wizard then walked away. When Jaymes woke up, everything outside was a blackish red colour. He felt the pain and remembered a quick spell to get the pain away. He casted it and he got himself up. He orientated himself before checking on his fellow students. Many had been knocked out, or, unfortunately, were beyond his help. He raced out the door and saw fellow wizards on the ground injured or dead. He heard a massive bang, bang of spell battles occurring everywhere across the fort. He looked out into a small window and saw a giant rock creature scaling up the mountain with Dark Wizard on its shoulders. Street Wizard and Jay's first instinct were to rush outside. The hallways were filled with opposition. One tried a lightning strike on Street Wizard, and he countered it with a shield spell. Jay, who was opposite to Street Wizard, used the stone beneath the attacker to curl upwards, smashing the man into the roof of the hallway while blocking off one half of the hallway. Street Wizard gets his sense for a second. A psychic ping. "Dark Wizard," he says out loud. Jay, who is examining her surroundings, looks at him as if that was obvious. Jay watches and decides to follow. Street Wizard takes out as many as possible as he rushes down the hallway. He sees Dark Wizard faintly down one of the ways, blast a hole and construct a stone giant. Street Wizard forms up and sends a shockwave downwards towards him, but Margaret steps out and dispels the effect before it can reach him. Dark Wizard climbs up toward the giant and instructs it with a touch spell to climb the mountain. Jay catches up and sees Margaret, who casts a lava whip and attempts to wrap Street Wizard around from that distance. Jay counters it with a water blast spell, stepping in front of Street Wizard. Street Wizard follows on Jay's move, using water to freeze it and make ice spikes, sending it at Margaret. One hits Margaret, while the others deflect off her. Margaret looks around and vanishes using the spell. Jaymes drops out of the wall that they had blasted in the classroom and levitates himself as he starts to fall. He used the levitation spell to move him up the mountain slowly. He sees Dark Wizard's stone giant reach the top of the summit. A path outlined in the mountain, as if the giant was tending through snow. Jaymes increases the speed of the spell, sending him up towards the top. The Unibearer had heard the explosions, the sound of spells being thrown at one another from high above. He knew it was coming. The Unibearer had been told by the universe itself. The Meist gate was to be sealed in a briefcase and moved the next day, but they had striked before he could. He saw the giant head ascend over his wooden refuge. Dark Wizard sent the Unibearer into the ground. Dark Wizard clicks and the stone giant crumbles as he steps onto the refuge. Dark Wizard steps forward as the Unibearer looks up to him. Unibearer says in an authoritative voice, "I forbid you access to the key." Dark Wizard chuckles, grins, and replies, "Oh, do you?" He strikes the Unibearer with lightning that zaps him. "I think you will crack, eventually. Though, in my solitude, I realize that this is played out. I saw the many cycles of this, and I prepared steps a little differently." Dark Wizard squats down. "The Meist gate. Where is it, you old bat?" "You don't have the key. We hid it well. Not even Street Wizard would be able to find it." "You have this undying confidence for this boy. It's unfortunate. He was just down below unconscious." "Lies! Oh, old man, your friends cannot protect the boy. Street Wizard lost. The Meist gate. Hand it over. Now." Unibarrow spots, in the corner of his eye line, Jaymes. A smile widens over his face. Dark Wizard, confused as to why he is smiling, turns to face where he is looking. He also sees Jaymes standing there. The next moment, a figure is standing, opposing them both. Street Wizard and Jay engaged more minions as they approached Margaret. Jay told Street Wizard, use the teleport spell to get to the Unibearer. I'll handle her. Street Wizard nodded and clicked his fingers. He teleported up and saw Dark Wizard and the Unibearer at one side and Jaymes at the other. Hey all, did I miss anything? Street Wizard asked. Dark Wizard shifted as Jaymes walked onto the refuge, aligning in a triangle shape with Street Wizard and Dark Wizard. Dark Wizard replied, you both are in time for the Unibearer to hand the Meist gate over to me. Jaymes summons his wand and yells, yeah, that's not happening. He casts a giant visible hand and strikes Dark Wizard, who counters it with a lasso spell, being launched a bit faster than James's timing, wrapping Jaymes up and dragging him towards Dark Wizard. Street Wizard tries to dispel the lasso, but Dark Wizard forces him into a wooden pole. Jaymes comes face to face with Dark Wizard. Jaymes, you've been fooled by an immortal that can die and a semi-mortal that wants to use you for his selfish needs. Dark Wizard spits out at Jaymes. He turns to the Unibearer, still holding Jaymes in his lasso spell. I want the Meist gate now, or he dies along with Street Wizard. The Unibearer looks at Street Wizard and Jaymes and sighs. He clicks and a briefcase appears. Dark Wizard sends the briefcase over to him using a grab object spell. He turns to Jaymes and instructs him, open the case, now. Street Wizard, seeing this, tries to send a lasso spell at the briefcase, but Dark Wizard draws the Unibearer up, and instead the lasso ties around his neck. Fuck! Street Wizard tries to dispel, but not in time. The Unibearer falls, dead onto the ground. The burns from the lasso spell etched onto his neck. Dark Wizard chuckles. Well, that didn't play out very well for you, did it? Dark Wizard taunts them both. Jaymes, open the briefcase, or you meet the same fate as the Unibearer. Jaymes opens the case for Dark Wizard. Lights of unimaginable color come bursting out of the briefcase. Dark Wizard and Jaymes stare at it in awe. Street Wizard sends a lightning bolt at Dark Wizard, who catches it. He turns away from the case. Your mission is over, old friend, Dark Wizard says. I hope you don't appear in the next cycle. You warriors are a pain in everybody's side. Dark Wizard sends the bolt back, and Street Wizard's eyes open wide as the bolt strikes him, with a metal bit forming at the last moment. Street Wizard stares down and kneels before falling over. Jaymes closes his eyes, trying to think of what to do, but before Dark Wizard can even think, Jaymes puts his hand on the case and goes, I wish for a new beginning. Dark Wizard lets out a long and painful scream as everything around them goes white. Jaymes hears a universe fade out into nothingness. Every animal, creature, every being in nature, every particle and atom reduced to nothing, and all reverted back. This is Street Wizard, the denouement of time.
Written by Greg Beasley, narrated by Jordan Vezzoli. Compiled together by both Greg Beasley and Jordan Vezzoli. This production is copyrighted by The Beez Show. All rights are reserved.